Hello and welcome to Sisterhood with me, Shelly Chopra. For years, we've been bringing women and men on this show who talk about the challenges we face today and the insecurities we deal with, and together how we can overcome those challenges. With me is a special guest, Anushka Rathore, who's breaking the stereotype when it comes to women and money. Women must make money and lots of it without any inhibition and not have to be shy about wanting to want money, just like anybody else in this world, for whatever they want to have. But most importantly, the financial freedom that money brings also gives them the power to say no to things they don't want in life. And that, I think, is one of the most powerful pieces of how money changes the game for women. And that's why I've been a huge advocate. Anushka Rathore, thanks very much for joining us. What is your
Thanks.
money story?
I'm sorry?
What is your money story?
Oh, for me, I come from a business family. So for me, dinner table conversation has always been around money, around businesses, how to make money. That was, I think, primary goal of everyone in my family. Both my parents are working, and I've always been comfortable talking about money and yeah, from day one, we were always told to optimize to make more money. Men or women, like boys or girls growing up, we've all been groomed to be financially independent.
So, it really does take a little bit of the money story at home to help women to recognize why it's important. Who played this role for you within the family? Like in my case, it was my dad. He said, make your own money because I'll give you none. So, what happened in your case?
In my case, it was my mom's. I was very lucky. I actually come from a relatively orthodox Marwadi family, and when my mom got married, it was still wearing a sari, having a pallu over her head. But luckily, my mom had a college degree. She had studied psychology, and she was the rebel who paved the way for me. So she when she got married, she had to quit everything, and she was a homemaker, but she fought her way through, and she had her own business, and she was doing incredibly well. So I think even within my family, it's just my mother who was and is very independent, and she's passed it down to both her daughters.
So, how do you react to people who say, listen, girls don't talk about money?
I think you just give them answers, or you make like some financially valid statement, and they usually answer it. So what happens is, whenever someone talk, or whenever I talk about money, say to my elders or to even my dad, in some case, because he still makes all the financial decisions in our family. They usually think they know the best and women don't know. But once you start giving valid points, once you start showing results, is when they'll listen to you also. So I think we still have to fight for a seat at the table when it comes to money conversation. But eventually, if we do show that we have reasonable points and we have something to bring to the table, we will get a seat there.
I think that's a good point. But Anushka, when I look at your entire journey with money, I see that you talk about it in great amount of detail. You talk about the importance of buying a house, having your own car. So tell me, when you talk and interact with your viewers and audiences, how are you trying to break this down to them as what is a very normal exercise? Going out there, earning money, saving money, improving investment returns, and essentially multiplying money.
See, whatever the kind of content that I've been making is all about how you can automate your money decisions, and how there are mediums for you to multiply your money without you fussing a lot about it, or without you day in, day out worrying about it. A lot of anxiety around money comes from not being aware. And through my content, I try to give them information, try to give them awareness, so that they have the appropriate knowledge to take the appropriate decisions to achieve whatever they want in life. If that could be taking a vacation or saving for a retirement. So the entire point is to give them as much information as possible, so that the anxiety towards, or when it comes to money, is taken away.
Yeah. You talk about anxiety. We're having a conversation in times which are fairly tough for people when it comes to the job market. Many of them have lost jobs, and many of them continue to find that they're moving into a contract worker position and instead of a permanent role, etc. What's your advice to people who are faced with these outcomes now and then? How do you talk to them about money?
See, when you are in the situation, I think there's very little that you can do. But when before that, there are a few steps that you can take. So, first of all, even before you start investing or before you do anything, the first step when it comes to saving money is creating an emergency fund for yourself. This emergency fund could be 5 to 6 months of your monthly expenses, your and your family, like whoever is financially dependent on you. All your monthly expenses need to be saved up and need to be highly liquid. That can either be in a say sweep in FD, or you can put it in a liquid mutual fund. This is very important. Say if you lose your job, or say there is an unforeseen expense that has just come out of the blue, you need to have liquid cash in hand. If you invest all of your money, say the stock market crashes when you need it, then you can't do anything. So the first and foremost thing is you should have an emergency fund of 5 to 6 months. And after that, you should always have your medical insurance, because medical bills come unannounced, and especially in a scenario where you are already short on cash, or you are just surviving by. If then a medical emergency come, it will actually put you in medical debt. So the second step is to get medical emergency, and these are the things that you should prepare when times are good, so that when times are bad, you can still withstand it.
In one of your videos, you talk about the importance of how do you protect your wife and child. I'm going to just reverse that. For a woman who runs the house, how does she protect her husband and children?
Oh, financially is that financially you mean? Right. So I think when women generally are better when it comes to saving money. So how you can protect your family entirely is to have an emergency fund. We all know, whenever there's an emergency, mummy ke aate ke dabbe se ya bistar ke niche se, you'll either get a pile of cash, or there'll be jewelry which she's saved up and she's bought, which will be available for in difficult times. So saving is something which women are inherently good at, and she can actually save for a rainy day for an entire family as well. And when it comes to children, well, there are certain things when it comes to education, when it comes to children's marriages, that is something she can, already start saving for. Open a PPF account for her child. If she is a female, open a Sukanya Samriddhi account for her. Apart from that, I also think that one way how she can, actually, she can be independent, and she can make an example for her child that women are strong and women are financially independent as well, and they're not dependent on anyone. So set an example for her child and encourage them, be it a boy or a girl. Encourage them to make a lot of money, and actually inspire them to earn their own money even after, say, right after they turn 18, and not be dependent on their parents. Like, that's something that my mother did for both my sister and I. Even though we come out from a relatively stable or a financially well-off background, she said that I am not going to pay for your expensive undergrad when you go abroad. That's something you'll have to fund for yourself. I am just going to pay for your normal undergrad, and once you're done with your undergrad, we're going to stop paying for you. So she had instilled that in us from day one. And if we wanted to go to the US to study, we would have to fund our own education. So that made us very responsible from day one when it comes to money and even earning money.
What are the three most important financial lessons that you have learned in life, particularly being a young person? I mean, talk to me from your own experience.
I think the most important thing that I've learned, especially in the last couple of years because of social media, is that don't have FOMO. If someone is doing something or someone is investing somewhere, you don't have to do it. You have to stick to things that you understand, and just, even if you're earning lesser returns, it's okay. You should get sleep at night, and you should know where your money is going. Second is lifestyle inflation. Again, with social media, everyone's taking vacations, buying fancy cars, wearing fancy clothes. If you look at my page, I'm wearing the same 5 clothes over and over again and again. At the end of the day, if you spend so much on your lifestyle, there'll only be so much that you can save. I'm not saying be, very frugal, but be smart when it comes to spending as well. And third is always have a emergency fund, because with so many layoffs for 2020, things are very uncertain. For me, I had literally quit my job right before COVID hit, and I did not have a source of income. So had I not have my emergency fund, I would be in deep trouble then.
Yeah. You keep talking about an emergency fund. A lot of women associate the idea of investment with gold. And perhaps at some point in my life, while I've diversified my investments, I've also bought gold, thinking at least it's variable and I'm okay with that, right? Talk to us a little bit about gold investments and how do you think women are approaching it? Are they approaching it enough? Are they still scared?
Right. So when it comes to gold as an investment, most women are still considering jewelry as an investment. So whenever you make jewelry, the more complex it is, the more fancy it is, the more you're losing in making charges. So I always consider jewelry as a luxury purchase first and an investment second. If you want to consider gold as an investment, you can go for gold coins, or you can go for online mediums to invest in gold, which are gold ETFs or sovereign gold bonds. Sovereign gold bonds are issued by a government and give you 2.5% extra over the gold returns, plus you don't have to pay taxes on the gold returns that you earn there.
Part of the learning that we all need to have is the fact that as investors, you have to recognize that you shouldn't park all your funds in one basket. You should look at diversification. Therefore, it's really important to be educated as an investor about what the very basics of money and investment are. What would you pick as a few basics that every person should ensure that they know before they even experiment, however little that money is?
Right. So I would say always gradually increase the complexity of instruments that you're investing in. So when you're starting to invest, stick to your very basics, stick to your FD, stick to your recurring deposit. Once you have, like, say, a certain amount invested there and you are in the habit of saving and investing, then consider, say, buying a little gold, starting to invest in mutual funds. When you invest in mutual funds, you can consider index funds, which require very little complexity in understanding what they are. And you can invest in gold ETFs also and start building your portfolio that way. And then eventually, move on to complex mutual funds. Now, once you are done with a point where, after index funds, when it comes to direct stocks, or when it comes to investing in particular real estate investments, or when it comes to investing in a particular relatively complex mutual funds, I think that's the step where you should hire a financial advisor or consult someone who knows about these things. And it is always better to spend a little money and get professional advice rather than 5-6 years down the line realizing that the investment that you've made is actually not correct for you. Or even if you are not aware of how to analyze a particular investment and you've just done it because someone else has said, you will always be anxious about it. You will never have the patience to wait for, say, the time duration that is required to actually see returns from that investment. So always start easy and gradually increase the complexity of instruments. And second, once the instruments start getting complex, always take help, because it's always better to spend a little money rather than lose a lot of money eventually.
So you're advocating a lot of effort being put in goal-based investment. Have your goals in place. Decide what you're saving for, what you're investing for. How do you want to eventually use the money? All of that. Would you want to share a little bit about perhaps a 2-3 step approach?
Right. So goals are very important because that will decide what instrument you're investing in. So if your goal is, say, just the next 3 years, it is coming in the next 3 years, you can't invest in an index mutual fund. You can't invest in the stock market because that is extremely volatile. You will have to stick to fixed instruments, which like your FDs, your RDs, or certain post office FDs, which will give you, or liquid mutual funds or short-term debt mutual funds, which will give you stable return, so that in those 3 years your money does grow by a little, but at least the principal amount is secured. Now, when you start having longer duration goals, that's when you can start introducing more variable and more risky assets like gold, like real estate, not real estate in entirety, but REITs, which are basically fractional real estate that you can buy. And also your mutual funds and direct stock investments. Now, when you have longer horizon, you also have time to sit through the ups and downs, and in the longer run, these higher risk instruments will give you relatively higher returns. So in the longer run, it doesn't make sense for you to take no risk at all. Like, taking no risk at all is also risk, because you're losing out on so much wealth appreciation that you could have gotten. So in the longer run, you can introduce more risky assets, but in the shorter run, stick to fixed instruments. And also, don't, again, like I keep harping on this again, but don't invest in things you don't understand. Keep things simple. Automate your investment month on month. पैसा यहाँ से आ रहा है, I have to make this SIP, I have to put it in this RD. Automate it so that month on month you don't have impulse purchases, and whenever you get money, you know where your money is going into whatever goal that you want to contribute to.
I love the term. I love the term impulse purchases. Now, this is not a Gen Z problem alone. Gen X has had it in the past. How does one control impulse purchases?
I don't think you can, and I don't think you should, because there's only so much willpower that you have. So, yeah, so, and that's something that even I do for myself. So, you can't really control your impulse purchases, and you shouldn't also, because there's only so much willpower you have, and throughout the day, there are so many things which are already exhausted that by the end of the day, when you want to feel good about yourself, it always helps buying a lipstick online. So, what you can do instead is create a separate account for your discretionary expenses. So what I do is I have a separate Paytm wallet just for my discretionary expenses. Every month I have this money that I can do anything with. I can go out for dinners, I can shop, I can, like buy the randomest things off eBay. That's money that I can have fun with. And rest all of my money, those are not linked to my online payments ever. My goals, my savings, my emergency fund, all my SIPs, the account which is linked to my SIPs, that's not linked to my online payments, and that's not something that I encash also. So for my discretionary expenses, I set a budget. Now, whenever I want to pay, if I have money in that account, I can buy it. If I don't have it, I won't be able to buy it. So this creates a friction which is more logistical and which will, help you not make a lot of impulse purchases and still enjoy at the same time.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's just come back to Anushka's own life. Anushka, how do you recognize it's just important as money? It's also important to spend on health, especially as women. We tend to ignore our health. What can we do to fix that?
First of all, it's very important to see health. So the last 2 years have been very difficult for me health wise. Like, I got diagnosed with IBS, which is basically stomach issues, and that just made me realize that health is everything. Like, when you don't have any problems, there are a lot of things, but when you are not healthy, health is your number one problem. So it is very important to take care of yourself. And also, today I don't see my payments to my nutritionist as an expense, but I see it as an investment, because today if I'm not healthy, I'm not able to work. If I'm not able to work, I'm not able to earn. So if the payments to my nutritionist, the payments to my gym, the payments that I make in having healthy food, and a cook for me, so that, like, according to my issues, I am able to function still well, those are investments for me. And had I done those investments before, and had I not eaten, when you are on a 50,000 salary, you don't exactly have a lot of discretionary spending on your hand, and you don't have the luxury to afford to cook also. So that time I was eating a lot of fast food, and I was healthy also, so I was not prioritizing my health there. But had I made those investments there, had I learned to cook, had I spent time is also an investment that you should make into your own health, into cooking, into working out. Had I done those before, today probably I would have been in much better space, and I would have to spend way less on managing my health. So, and as women, I think, especially if especially women who are working, right? Like, women who are working are expected to work, but at the same time also take care of the household. So the time that they get for themselves is just not there. And then if they don't have time for themselves, they're not taking care of their own health. They don't have time to go to the gym. They're always cooking what others want to eat. So, and it's also like, somewhere I feel, like, I have seen my elder sister who is wonderfully running a business. I feel she feels guilty if she takes an hour out, not looking at a kid's study, but instead going to the gym. So also take that guilt out of it, especially when you are doing so many things at the same time. Take the guilt out of prioritizing yourself as well.
It's been great fun having this conversation. Before I close this part of the conversation, I want to ask you one question: that how do you think you would advise yourself, a younger self, about money if you didn't have the support of your mom or parents to kind of push you? Most people don't have that.
So, see, I think when you're that young, don't think about savings or investments as much, because you don't have a lot of money to save and invest. Think about improving your skills, think about investing in yourself, and think about making more money, because only when you have those skills, people are going to reward you for that. And only when you have certain amount of money which is in excess of your day-to-day expenses, you need to have a basic lifestyle, and that requires certain amount of money. Only when you have surplus of it, you can save and grow it eventually. So when you're starting off, prioritize taking as many courses you need, doing as many internships you should need to, and just prioritize on building skills and learning as much as possible so that you can increase your income.
So, Anushka, I'll ask you three broad questions, okay? And you can keep them as juicy and cut as you want. So, my first question to you is: women who want, who have money as a goal, they are often called gold diggers. How do you break this down for those women who carry the guilt and are shy to talk about money?
You have to be confident. You don't have an option. It has to come from you, because unfortunately the society is not going to support you. There are a few groups that are like She the People TV, and there are like a lot other groups which you can be a part of, where there are independent women, where there are strong women who will help you be more confident and talk more openly about your goals, about money. But it has to come from within. You have to find your support system, and you need to push yourself in order to talk about these or achieve more things and prioritize yourself. And you have to be selfish here, because unfortunately the system's rigged against you.
Your reaction to a man who calls you, a woman in love with money, a gold digger?
Yeah, I am in love with money. I am a gold digger, and I don't see anything wrong with it. If a man he's ambitious, and it's a negative connotation for me, well, screw you. I am very happy being in love with money.
What is it that's the most important three things you would like to say to somebody who is new with her money?
First of all, your money is your money. Don't spend it on others or feel the compulsion to spend on others just because, we inherently are very women are very caring and supportive of others. So it's your money, and you get to take your own decisions. Don't let anyone else take your money and tell that they're going to do something with it, or you don't donate it away. If you want to, you can though. Second, enjoy a little. I think this is the first time when women as a demographic are like considered to be a very important part. And there are so many products. There are we are as a like keeping women in focus. There are so many experiences being built, so many things that we enjoy. So splurge a little here and there, and invest in yourself if you want to, spend on yourself if you want to. And lastly, don't forget to save. Don't forget to always be independent when it comes to money. So have your savings and make sensible investments, so that on a rainy day you can still be independent.
How do you react to people who say that women should depend on their husbands? If the husband's earning, why should a woman have to have her own money?
Because if the husband, like we've seen this, right, like for so many years and years and years, husband's been earning, and then they exert the dominance, or they are the superior beings, and women, since they're taking care of the homes, they're not. We've seen that happening, and we don't want that to happen any longer. We want to be independent, we want to be equal, and now we want to make our own decisions. And if that comes from earning our own money and being independent, then you didn't leave us any other choice.
They sometimes say that women's financial decision making is only reduced to the kitchen and domestic sphere. They really don't understand anything about stocks and other investment options.
I would say this is not a gender thing as such. It's more about a grooming thing. From a young age, if you're talking to women about dresses, about jewelry, about makeup, naturally their interests are going to be that. And it's not wrong to have an interest in that. But if you're only talking to boys about investments, stocks, businesses, then they are also naturally going to be more interested in that. From day one, if you're telling your girls you have to be homemakers, then they are going to focus on that. From day one, if you're telling your boys that you have to support the family, you have to earn a living, they will be more focused on that. So it's from a grooming only. You are creating those gender differences, and then eventually telling that it is because of the gender you don't know these things. It's because of the grooming you don't know. So teach your daughters everything when it comes to stocks, money, and even cooking. Teach your boys also those same things and create a more equal platform. There is no, on a cerebral level, it is very individual of your preferences. On a gender level, it is more about grooming.
The last two questions. Women need to talk about money to each other. Somehow they feel very shy talking about money while getting a blow dry done. They're very happy discussing what's the next big color trend in the market. Why should we break that situation?
See, we all know, like especially women who are working, we know that there's a boys' club. We know that we have to create a girls' club, and there are so many more opportunities that we will get. So much more support we'll get if there is a girls' club. If there's a girls' club at the top level, life would be just so much more easier. People would understand how complex corporates and organizational structures will take our problems also more seriously. So it's very important for us to create girls club everywhere we go, and that's why it's very important to have these discussions which we've traditionally not been groomed to have.
Why should women focus on also spending some of their money on their own health, physical and emotional health, and what could be the ways in which they can do that?
See, as women, I think today you are working as well as taking care of the family, and you don't have time for yourself. So first of all, be a little selfish and create time for yourself and do your self-care routines. Have 12-step skincare routine, have your healthcare routine, light candles, do whatever you need to have your downtime so that you can you have your cup is full to give to others as well. After that, also, regularly get your tests done, which is very important, because of all the stress and all the pollution and the things that we're eating, lifestyle problems as well as other problems, diseases have increased, and they're propping up very quickly for people in general. So also get your tests done regularly. There are a lot of OPD focused companies that have come up, which will actually just take a regular sum of amount from you every month and give you unlimited tests and doctor consultations, which also includes everything from your therapy, physiotherapy, nutritionist. So you can actually also invest in one of those plans. After that, again, be more active, because we all are relatively living more sedentary lifestyle. So be more active, take time out for yourself to go to the gym, to just work out. And lastly, I think this is one thing that I myself do. So if you're busy and you don't have time here and there, what you can do is convert all your dinner meetings with friends, or dinner hangout with friends, or wherever you're sitting, to make those into activities. So go out, recreational activities can be, say, playing a sport, going for long walks with your friends. That way you are also being active and spending time with people that you want to, and have fun.
I love the last part, have fun. Super. Thanks very much, Anushka. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you about these various different things and getting us insight into your entire journey with money, and the way you're encouraging everyone to change this is fantastic. Is there anything I should have asked you but I haven't?
I think I think like this thing I've already mentioned, but as women, like unfortunately, we don't have the systems in place to encourage us to do things that we want to do, or be financially independent. Like today, because when I was 18, my mom told me very clearly that, Anushka, you have till 25 to prove your mettle. After that, I won't be able to take a stand for you in front of our entire family, that you don't have to get married, and you don't have to get married, or you can support yourself. So I started working when I was right out of my 12th standard. I started working because I knew I had a deadline when I was 25, and my mother was there to push me throughout. And she also showed me the reality that, if you want to make it, these are the things that you have to achieve. You have to work harder than men, and unfortunately that is true. But because my mother fought her battles, I had it easier. And today, if I fight my battles, it'll be easier for the coming generation. So don't give up. We have like a lot more communities today which support us. We have like a better support system, than probably when you started out, Saili. And so we have to pass it on to the next generation. We have to work hard, and we have to work hard to create that equal footing for ourselves. But don't give up. It will ultimately reward you.
That's truly in the right spirit of my show. Sisterhood, pay it forward, be there for each other in every possible way. Thanks very much, Anushka, for joining us. And you all here, stay tuned to us on our YouTube channel and come back for another episode of Sisterhood and many other shows that run here on a regular basis.